we will report about social, political, economic, and cultural issues in the Philippine history.
My name is Romeo Tapales from Candapong, Alcantara, Cebu, 20 years old.
My name is Limay Lombos from Cansalona, Ronda, Cebu, 19 years old.
My name is John Perez Temporada from Cabajan, Alcantara, Cebu, 18 years old.
My name is Martin Gavales from Tuble, Malwal, Cebu, and 19 years old.
Agrarian reform. When the land are secure, the cycle of poverty is broken. So people should know and learn to secure land right because this is important for reducing poverty and boosting shared property at the country. So agrarian reform is a redistribution of lands regardless of crops or fruits produced to farmers and regular farm workers who are landless irrespective of tenurial arrangement to include the totality of factors and support service designed to lift the economic status of the beneficiaries. So, agrarian reform is a rectification of the whole system of agriculture. So, rectification means the action of putting something right. So, agrarian reform also contributes in improving the socio-economic condition of landless farmers. Land reform is an integrated set for measurement designed to eliminate obstacles to economic and social development arising out of defects in the agrarian structure. So, land reform, this program was created to end unfair and ownership practices by dividing up the land and providing proper documentation to its rightful owner. The three aspects of agrarian reform: economic aspect, socio-cultural aspect, religious aspect. So, Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program or Republic Act 6657 is the redistribution of public and private agricultural lands to farmers and farm workers who are landless irrespective of tenurial arrangement. So, Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. Legal basis for CARP is the Republic Act No. 6657 signed by President Corazon C. Aquino on June 10, 1988. It is an act which aims to promote social justice and industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. The history of agrarian reform. The Philippines, even before being colonized by different countries, already now developed an organization for their communities. Barangay, land owned by these communities, which consists of 30 to 100 families which are administered by different chiefs. Status had access to have the land and mutually showed resources to the rest of the community. Stewardship, a practice the community believe in where the relationship between man and nature is important. Kaingin system, land cultivation, the slashes and burn method wherein land was cleared by burning the bushes before planting. The crops or either land was plowed and harrowing before planting. Food production was intended for family consumption only at first, but later on neighboring communities were engaged in a barter trade, exchanging their food with others. Foreign traders, where we trade our agricultural product with luxury items in Chinese, Arabs, or Europeans. Maragtas codes, only recorded transaction of land sold during the time. Selling the Panay-alan to the 10 Bornean datos in exchange for a golden salakot and a long golden necklace. Code of Lawaranas. Code of Lawaranwas, one of the oldest written law on the Muslim society, which contains provision on the list of cultivated lands. Spanish came to the country in 1521. Pueblo, an agriculture system wherein the native rural communities are organized into pueblo and each Christianized native family, landholders and not legitimate landowners, is given for the 5 hectares of land to cultivate Thus, there is no land lease class. Spanish king, owner of the land when where they pay their colonial tribute to Spanish authorities in the form of agricultural products that they produce. Americans, so to put an end to the miserable condition of the tenant tailors and small favor by passing several land policies to widen the base of small land holdings and distribute land ownership among agricultural products that they produce. In Japanese occupation, Hukbalahap, hukbong bayan laban sa mga Hapon, organized by peasant of workers in March 29, 1942 as an anti-Japanese group. They took over vast tracts of land and gave the land to the people. In President Manuel L. Quezon, during his administration, some of the agrarian reform laws were passed. Republic Acts 4054 on the Rice Tenancy Law. First law on crop sharing which legalized by the 50-50 share between landlord and tenant with corresponding support for tenant protection them against abuses of landlords. And President Manuel Rojas, Republic Act number 34 was passed and it was enacted to establish a 70 to 30 sharing arrangement between tenant and landlord. The 70% of the harvest will go to the person who shoulder the expense for planting, harvesting, and for the work animals. With this, it reduced the interest of landowners' loans to tenants at more than 6%. And President Elpidio Quirino, the Lands Settlement Development Corporation, Executive Order Number 355, established to accelerate and expand the peasant resettlement program of the government. However, due to the limited post-war resources, the program was not successful. So sa pamumuno na naman ni President Ramon Magsaysay, he realized that important of pursuing a more honest to goodness land reform program. He convinced the elite-controlled Congress to pass several legislation to improve the land reform situation in the country. So in President Diosdado Macapagal, he is the father of agrarian. So si President Diosdado Macapagal is the father of agrarian reform. Agricultural Reform Code or Republic Act number 3844 was enacted more specifically on August 8, 1963. There was considered to be the most comprehensive piece of agrarian reform legislation ever enacted in the country at the time. So sa pamumuno ni President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., the Code of Agrarian Reform or Republic Act number 6389, its companion bill RA number 6390, governed the implementation of the agrarian reform in the Philippines. So in President Fidel Ramos, he was recognized for bringing back support of key stakeholder of CARP by bridging certain policy gaps on land acquisition and distribution, land evaluation and ACE resolution. Magkabalikat para sa kaunlarang agraryo, magkasaka, which was land which is directed for the investors to bring in capital, technology, and management support while the farmer will contribute at host the use to their land itself. So in GMA administration, Bayan Anihan concept as the implementing framework for CARP. Bayan means people and Anihan means harvest, and Bayanihan means working together. Bayan Anihan means a united people working together for the successful implementation of reform.
President Benigno Aquino III, DAR, which is the lead agency for CARP implementation. Three major components: land tenure improvement, Program Beneficiaries Development, Agrarian Justice Delivery. Republic Act 9700 or the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with Reform Carper. An act strengthening the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, contending the acquisition of all agriculture lands, was signed into law on August 7, 2009 with following features. The etymological definition of the term constitution comes from the word constitution, used for regulation and order. Term constitution refers to the body of rules and principles in accordance with which the power of some right are exercised. The GMA administration has adopted the Bayanihan concept as the implementing framework for corporation. Bayan means people, Anihan means harvest, and Bayanihan governance of President Noynoy Aquino. Department of Agrarian Reform, which is the lead agency for CARP implementation. The three major components: land tenure improvement, program beneficiaries development, agrarian justice delivery. Land Reform Act of 1955, Republic Act 1400, an act defining a land and appropriating funds for its implementation. Revised Agricultural Land Reform Code, Republic Act 6389, an act amending Republic Act 3844 as awarded, otherwise known as the Agricultural Code and for other purpose. Comprehensive Agrarian Reform, Republic Act 6657, a comprehensive agrarian reform program to promote social justice and industrialization, providing the mechanism for its implementation and other purposes. Qualified beneficiaries, the land covered by the comprehensive agrarian reform shall be distributed as much as possible to landless residents of the same barangay or in the absence of landless residents of the same municipality in the following order or priority.
Purpose of Constitution. Every permanent organization must have basic rules or laws for its establishment and for the conduct of its activities, since our entire national, state, and local governmental system rests on Constitution. In a democracy, the construction of a constitution is a function of the people who exercise sovereignty and decide that rules and principles they want government to follow. A constitution must be both stable and flexible in order to be successful. It is rigid in that it can be changed only by amendment or replacement, while flexibility is achieved through discussion made by the legislature, chief executive, and courts. Constitution supports statutory laws and regulation, but also support regulations and actions supported by those laws. It provides for the structure of organization, the methods of selection of individuals to fill positions in the structure are specified, the requirements and length of terms. A Bill of Rights is included the state constitution, usually starting restructuring of the state. The method of amending or replacing the Constitution are also provided by Constitution itself. Constitution of Philippines. Malolos Constitution. It is known as a La Constitución Política de Malolos and was written in Spanish. Following the declaration of independence from Spain by the revolutionary government, a congress was held in Malolos, Bulacan in 1899 to draw up a constitution. It was first Republican constitution in Asia. It is also called a presidential from a government with the president elected from term of 4 years by a majority of assembly. The Malolos Constitution established Spanish as the official language of the Philippines. The Constitution halal sa biak na bato promulgated by the Philippine Revolutionary Government on November 1, 1897 is the provisionary constitution of the Philippines Republic during the Revolution against Spain. Legislative power is exercised by the Assembly of Representatives of the Nation and judicial power of lodge in Supreme Court. The 1899 Political Constitution of the Republic was approved by President Emilio Aguinaldo on January 21, 1899 and served as the Constitution of the First Philippine Republic. 1935 Constitution of the Philippines was written in 1934, approved by adopted by the Commonwealth of the Philippines 1935 to 1946 and later used by the Third Republic of the Philippines 1946 to 1972. The 1935 Constitution of the Philippines was written to meet the approval of United States government. It's provided for a unicameral legislature and a single 6 years term for the president, but was amended in 1940 to have a bicameral Congress and an independent commission of elections. The Commonwealth of the Philippines was ratified on May 17, 1935, established the powers, composition, and organization of the government of the Philippines Island. It also provides that the Philippines shall be known as the Republic of the Philippines upon the promulgation of Philippine independence. 1943 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Premier Hideki Tujada promised Filipinos independence, leading to the formation of the Philippine Independence Committee to draft a new constitution. The Japanese proposed a republic to be established under the Japanese occupation with indirect legislative elections and even stronger executive branch. Upon ratification by the Calipapi Assembly, the Second Republic was formally proclaimed 1943 to 1945. Jose P. Laurel was appointed as president by the National Assembly and graduated into office in October of 1943. The 1943 Constitution remained in force of Japanese-controlled areas. 1973 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Ang Saligang Batas ng Pilipinas was ratified by the Citizen Assemblies on January 17, 1973, shifting from presidential to a parliamentary system. The President serves as a symbolic head of state. Executive power is exercised by the Prime Minister with the assistance of the cabinet and legislative powers invested in a unicameral National Assembly. And 1976, the National Assembly was replaced by PD 0133 issued by President Ferdinand Adralin Marcos. The 1973 Constitution as Assembly provide from the semi-parliamentary and chief executive the legislative power of invested in a unicameral batasang pambansaan. The Prime Minister is the head of the cabinet. 1986 Provisional Constitution, popularly known as the Freedom Constitution, promulgated by President Corazon C. Aquino on March 25, 1986, was a provisional constitution after a successful people power revolution. Under the Freedom Constitution, executive and legislative powers are exercised by President and shall continue to exercise legislative power until a legislature is elected and convened under the new constitution. The President is mandated on cabinet a constitutional commission tasked to draft a new charter. Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, ratified on February 2, 1987, the fourth fundamental law to govern the Philippines since it became independent on July 4, 1946. First, the 1935 Constitution, which became fully operational after the inauguration of the Third Philippine Republic. Second, the 1973 Constitution was promulgated during martial law and became fully operational only after the lifting of martial law in 1981. Third, the 1986 Provisional Freedom Constitution, which was promulgated on March 25 by President Corazon C. Aquino after the successful People Power Revolution in 1986. Taxation, the lifeblood of any state. The state has the power of impose and collect revenues to support the government and its recognized objects, but only for public purposes. Taxation is a base of the benefits received and principle. However, not all people can afford to pay taxes, so it based on individual ability to pay, not the inherent people of the government. Taxes are necessary to government to function. As stated by De Leon 2005 p. 375, taxes possess the following characteristic: enforced contribution, payable in money, proportionate in character, imposed on persons or property, imposed by the state which has jurisdiction, however, the person or property, imposed by the law-making body of the state, it is levied or for public purposes. Kind of taxes under existing laws. Direct taxes, these are paid and shouldered directly by the taxpayer. These include personal income taxes and state taxes. Indirect taxes, these are paid by the taxpayer but which this can shift or pass on others, particularly those who avail of his goods and service. A good example of these would be the value-added taxes or VAT, which are based on passed on by the manufacturers to consumer in increasing the cost of their goods. Another example would be the customs duties or tariffs imposed on imported merchandise. Personal pool or capitation taxes refers to a tax to fixed amount imposed on an individual and residencing with an specified theory. They're a citizen or not, and regardless of property of the occupation they engage in. Community taxes. Property taxation is a charge or burden imposed to provide income for public purposes such as government admission or payment by public expense.
As to determination of account, specific tax is a fixed amount of imposed by the head of number or some standard or weight or measurement which require assessment other than listing or classification of a subject to be taxed. Ad valorem tax is a fixed proportion of the value of the property with respect which the tax assesses. Example, real estate tax, percentage tax, excise tax on cigars or cigarettes. As to whom bears the burden, direct tax. It is for the person who shoulders the burden of tax. Example, community tax, corporate and individual taxes. Indirect tax. It is for the person who should identify himself at the expense of another. Example, business taxes such as VAT, percentage taxes, and other custom duties. As to graduation or rate, proportional tax is a fixed percentage of the amount of the property, income, or other basis to be taxed. Example, real property tax and all percentage taxes. Progressive or graduated tax is the rate which increases as the tax base or bracket increases. Example, income tax, estate tax, donor tax. Regressive tax is a rate which decreases as the tax base or bracket increases. Classification of taxes. As to subject matter or subject, personal, poll or compilation tax is a tax of a fixed amount imposed on an individual residing within a specified territory. Example, community tax, property tax is an amount imposed on property, whether real or personal, in proportion either to its value. Example, real estate tax. Excise tax is any tax which does not fall within the classification of a poll tax or property tax. Example, estate, donors and income taxes, value added tax or VAT, and practically all business tax. As to purpose, general, fiscal, or revenue tax is for the general purpose of the government to raise funds for its needs. Example, income tax and almost all taxes. Special or regulatory tax is for special purpose to achieve some social or economic ends, irrespective of whether revenue is actually raised or not. Example, protective forests or customs duties or important goods to protect local industries. As to scope or authority imposing the tax, national tax imposed by the national government. Example, national revenues and custom duties. Municipal or local tax imposed by the municipal or public corporations. Examples, real estate tax, duties. Purpose of taxation: to raise revenue or provide funds to promote general welfare and protections of citizens and to enable the government to finance its multifarious activities. Also to satisfy the following objectives. 1. Equitably distribute the wealth of the nation, referring to the case of estate and donors taxes. 2. Protect new industries which the rate of taxation may be increased to regulate the proliferation of unnecessary industries and competition with foreign investments. 3. Uplift social conditions as in the case of regulatory taxes in the exercise of police powers. Basis of taxation: based on the reciprocal duties of protection and support between the state and its inhabitants, the taxpayer receives benefits and protection from the government. This is termed as the benefits received principles. Characteristics of a sound tax system: fiscal adequacy. The sources of revenue must be adequate to defray the expenses of the government. Juridical justice. Taxes must be based on the ability to pay. Administrative feasibility must meet the following criteria. 1. Tax laws must be clear and concise. 2. It is capable of proper enforcement. 3. It is not burdensome. 4 canons for good taxation. 1. Equity, based on the ability to pay. 2. Certainty. The amount to be paid and the manner for payment must be certain. The amount should be paid every 15th day of March for fixed income and every 15th day of April for mixed income. 3. Convenience. The time for payment and the manner of collection must not be oppressive. 4. Economy. The tax to be levied must be just enough to sustain the government and its function. 3 phases of taxation. 1. Levy or imposition. Involves the impact of taxation, free to select the persons or properties of the business interest or legislative that may subjected to imposition as long as the 2. Assessment and collection. The basic guidelines on the assessment are laid down and the administrative authorities are responsible for details in collection of taxes. 3. Payment is the incidence of taxation that involves the act of compliance by the taxpayer in contributing his share to pay the expenses of the government.